Hmm. 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 What is this place? Look at all these terrifying scenes. But why are all the people so still? Guillotines, ruthless murderers. I know what I'll be dreaming about tonight. They're all wax models. They're amazingly realistic, aren't they? What do you think, Bruno? Shocked? What? Wax models? Ah! I read about dead bodies in wax once in a magazine about strange phenomena. Depending on how corpses are kept after death, parts of them can turn to wax. It's called adipocery? Stop talking about creepy things, Bruno. You're scaring me. Anyway, adipocery doesn't form readily, you know. It's in very specific... Ah! What now? I've just remembered something else I read in another magazine about strange phenomena. There was an old lady, maybe a witch, who used to pour molten wax over corpses and put them on display. None of the exhibits in here are real. Ryunosuke is a fucking idiot. They're all entirely man-made replicas. They can't be. Do you really expect me to believe that? Just look at them. Oh. There's no way anybody could make models of people that are this realistic. And they are all such gruesome scenes. Lord, the most terrifying of them all. Wait. What is it? Oh no, I must be seeing things. Oh! What we got cooking over here? Is this an arm? It looks like an arm, doesn't it? Maybe one of the waxworks models has fallen over. You don't think this work could be one of the mass murderers in here, do you? Bruno, stop scaring me. It's a wax arm, or is it a real one? Come on, you're always pointing that finger of yours in the court. Poke that arm and see how it feels. Objection. Don't be a pussy. That big heavy curtain is in a very prominent position. I have a nasty feeling something's going to be truly terrifying behind it. Oh yes, that's a famous Tuspill special exhibit. It depicts one of England's most notorious killers. Do you want to pay the extra fee and have a look? Pay more money to be even more terrified? Oh, let me think about that for a moment. It was only a suggestion. Sholmes, what you doing? It's the great detective, Mr. Herlock Sholmes. Sholmes has his own wax model in here, really? Well, he is a world famous after all. It's an uncanny resemblance, isn't it? Makes my skin crawl to look at it. I know. But look, Bruno, you can kick this Hurley, and he doesn't move a muscle. Right. Amazing. You can't go kicking the exhibits, Iris. It just moved, I'm sure. And not just a little bit, either. Really? Did it? And look closely. There are beads of sweat on its face of this waxwork model. Shall we move on, Iris? Over there, look, there's a great murder scene to enjoy, much more appealing. My dear fellow, I take exception to you recoiling in such a manner as if you've seen something truly abhorrent. Mr. Sholmes, I knew it. Iris, what possessed you? I strictly forbade you from divulging my temporary waxwork secret to Naruhodo. Temporary waxwork? What do you mean? And that kick! Could you have not exercised a little more restraint? You winded me. But Bruno has something he needs to ask you. Ah, a question? And I thought you'd probably be getting bored too. So here we are. Well, I can't deny your timing was impeccable. A mere 2 minutes more being stationary like that, and my great brain upon which all my success has been built would have turned to wax. Thank goodness we arrived in the nick of time. Indeed. In many ways, the pair of you just saved the world from an unimaginable loss. Oh, Hurley, you do like to talk nonsense, don't you? Damn, you don't gotta do him like that. He could know something, it's true, about Von Zykes. Now that you're here, let's take our time. How can I be of assistance? For you're in luck. I'm suddenly quite taken with the idea of conversing. Oh, well, actually, I'm in quite a hurry. And if my eyes don't deceive me, I believe something is afoot within the walls of this very museum. A most fascinating case, if I'm not mistaken. Really? Moreover, I have a strong suspicion that it is related to the matter with which you've come to me now. But how could it be? We shall speak again presently, my dear fellow, but for now, I must return to my work. What? Back to being a temporary waxwork exhibit? What is this place? Madame Tuspels came to London from France 3 years ago, I understand. Since she has opened this little waxwork museum last year, it's enjoyed great popularity in London. There are museums like this in Japan too, but these displays are something else. I mean, they aren't made from actual real people, are they? The extreme realism of these waxwork models is a particular secret of the Tuspel family, they say. They earned renown during the French Revolution for waxworks of victims of the guillotine. Ugh, that sounds grim. The gruesome scenes were portrayed with such realism in the expressions of the faces of the condemned. Apparently, the sculptors would make the models directly from the corpses, right there at the site of the executions. That turns my stomach. That's just one of several legends about the Tuspel family. Whether there's any truth in it, I couldn't say. But anyway, this museum houses models of famous people from all over the globe. Nevertheless, the most popular area of the museum by quite some margin is this House of Horrors. House of Horrors? Of course, visitor numbers are dwindling now as a result of the Great Exhibition, but people usually flock here to see the great exhibits of some of London's most vile criminals at their gruesome work. Naturally, most of the miscreants portrayed here were sent to the gallows. So they're even stiffer now than the models of them. Ha 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 ha! Have you heard of poor taste? My dear fellow, the public live for poor taste. They yearn to be shocked. So the hideous exhibits in here are... They're all portrayals of real events that actually took place. Looks like we missed Jack the Ripper. Is it just me, or did the temperature seem to drop? Anyway, I advise you not to think too deeply about what you see here. Oh, he's back to being a waxwork, is he? What do you mean by a temporary waxwork, Sholmes? Exactly what you see. I'm part of the exhibits here, catching these criminals in the act. Catching them. Every half an hour I home in on a different killer in one of the displays and adopt a new pose to ensnare them. When members of the public come for a closer look, I offer them my hand to shake. For a shilling, I'll happily allow them to take a photograph with us. Us? Does he mean him and the waxwork murderers? But why, Chalmers? My dear fellow, isn't it obvious? For the money! He really roared at me there. Very fitting for the House of Horrors. As it stands, I may struggle to pay this month's rent, and I have the ravenous Iris to consider. Oh, Hurley, I'm so hungry. If push comes to shove, I shall have to ask you to do your bit, Mr. Naruhodo. What's he threatening to rope me into now? So, with that in mind, how about a photograph? As a special treat, you may have your pick of the murderers and scoundrels. The choice is yours. Maybe some other time. Remember, Mr. Naruhodo, ignore me at your peril. Back to waxwork. Is it just me, or did the final remark sound a lot like a curse? Well, what is it you'd like to ask me? Actually, it's about Von Zykes. Ah, our friend Mr. Reaper. How did you find him? Well, I trust. And so I filled Sholmes in about everything. About Zykes, Harebrain, and about the strange coincidence of university together. So I'm wondering what it was that happened to make Von Zykes such a different person. I was sure you'd know, Hurley. You said there was something going on here in this exhibit hall before, that something was afoot, and that you believed it was related to what I wanted to ask about. Chalmers, he suddenly clammed up. Well, it seems we've reached the unavoidable... Greetings! Oh, hello? Where did she appear from? I mean, she is a witch. What is she wearing? Could she look more mysterious? I hope you are appreciating my museum. Sorry, have we... Sholmes, do you know this? Not again. My apologies. I am Esmeralda Tuspels. This is my museum of waxworks. What? You? You're the Madame Tuspels? Bien sûr, bien sûr, bien sûr. Though only 26 years young, I might add. Is that significant somehow? I'm a madame in name only. It adds a certain je ne sais quoi. Right. Firstly, I must apologize for my waxworks, or rather, one waxwork in particular. That'll be Sholmes then. I was led to believe he was a great detective, but he seems unable to settle. Next time you move from your designated exhibit, there will be toil and trouble. Okay. She sounds deadly serious. That's a problem. How am I supposed to ask Sholmes about Van Zykes now? Let's not forget what Hurley said before. Something about being afoot right here in the museum. Yes, I know, but... I'm so curious. I want to know what's happening here. Haven't we got enough on our plate already? Let's chat. Did you make all these waxworks, Madame Tuspel? I did. I'm the third generation of the waxwork artisans, you know. Gosh. It was my grandmother who began the tradition in my family. Her fortunes were checkered, her living through the turbulent times of the French Revolution as she did. Though that is when she acquired the savoir-faire that leads to the astonishing likeness. All these waxworks really do look like they're alive. In fact, they look more alive than Hurley. Haha. What you see exhibited here represents the most atrocious of London's criminal past. All the waxworks here were created in the presence of the real people in which they are modeled, in the hours immediately following their executions. That is the secret to the extraordinary lifelikeness. That sounds terrifying. All walks of life have similar challenges, I'm sure. To carry out one's trade per excellence, one must go to extraordinary lengths. My exhibits are a reflection of society. I create only that which the public wishes to see. Ugh. Why couldn't the public have wished for something less horrifying? Do not fear. Sorry. This room is the only one in the museum with such a macabre theme. I do hope you'll explore. There are models of famous singers, actors, politicians, something for everyone's taste, I hope. It was Iris who dragged me straight in here, come to think of it. Sorry, perhaps I should have eased you into things. What's the situation with that? My temporary waxwork model? He approached me some days ago, you see, with a business proposal. Oh, what sort of proposal? My dear madam, what these sparse exhibits need is the addition of a world-famous great detective. Or words to that effect. Naturally, I am well aware that Sholmes is widely known in London as a talented detective. It's a great detective, actually. He's very specific. Yes, the creme de la creme. So I was keen to come to some arrangement with him, of course. But, sadly, we were unable to agree terms. Let me guess, someone wanted to charge an exorbitant price. For a mere £500, I will dive into your cauldron of wax this very moment. Damn. He's getting... My man out here hustling. Or words to that effect. Sholmes might have overdone it slightly. Regrettably, the museum has a shortage of funds at the moment due to unforeseen circumstances. So we came to the current arrangement instead. Surely he doesn't really need to do what he's doing, does he? I would think not, but he was very insistent. I have a 50-shilling problem that must be solved by the morning. Or words to that effect. It's the pawnbroker, that's what it is. He must have something to redeem. Is the consulting detective work not going well? I wonder, could I ask you something? Bien sûr. I'm just curious, is anything going on in the museum at the moment? Some kind of incident? Whoever suggested such a thing to you? Oh, well, it was, your temporary waxwork over there who mentioned. Oh! He's disappeared. A wax model is a work of art, not some tawdry object for trade. There you are. Leaving the exhibit again when you should be working. Do you wish to be melted down? My dear Madame Tuspels, save your reprimands. There are more pressing concerns. The wax can wait. It's our ideas about your current problem we must throw into the melting pot. Personally, I would advise you to not involve the police. Why ever not? She's turned as white as a sheet. Because you have at your disposal a great detective whose services you may employ for a mere 50 shillings. Though please be aware that I prefer... No, I insist upon payment in advance. Very well. Let us see if the great detective is able to live up to his name, shall we? Before I engage my analytical processes, I must ask you to clarify something. What, pray, is behind the curtain? This is the Tuspel special exhibit. There is an extra charge to see it. Ah, the special exhibit in the House of Horrors. It must depict a special killer then, I presume. Would you be so kind as to draw back the curtain, I wonder? Ah, absolute not. There is nothing amiss behind there. Nothing amiss, madame. What about the arm protruding ominously from under the curtain? Ah! I strongly encourage you to allow me to see what lies beyond before the situation worsens. Yes, very well. I will draw back the curtains. This is the same color as the scrap we found, and it would have wax on the inside, wouldn't it? I must confess I peeked behind the curtain earlier. The Tuspel special exhibit is a very bleak graveyard scene indeed. And yet, somewhat surprisingly, the waxwork killer one would expect is nowhere to be seen. What does strike one, however, is the portly gentleman laying peacefully on his back on the floor. Actually, maybe that's not the same color. But there would be wax on the inside of these things, so... Well then, perhaps, Sholmes, that man on the floor is the ruthless killer himself? I'm afraid not, my dear fellow. He is a perfectly ordinary London gentleman. Not even a waxwork, in fact. What? As skillfully made as these waxworks are, they are always distinguishable from real humans. So, allow me to present my two conclusions. The first is that a sizable business transaction has been taking place in this special exhibit. Why? Why would you say that? And the second is that the aforementioned transaction is linked to a serious crime. Ah! She looks as pale as candle wax. I don't understand. So, Madame Tuspels, you've agreed to my fees. You shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. Amazing. To begin with, we must ask ourselves, what exactly is afoot here in this museum? The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Ah, not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Tuspels. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public notice. Waxwork for sale? Your business has hit hard times, it would seem. In short, you sold the infamous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of £200. Non. Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. This seems unlikely. It would appear that you twisted this gentleman around your little finger most effectively. What are you suggesting? He rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of £200. Only when he came to hand the money over did it occur to him what an extortionate amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And the result, the scene we see before us. He collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit fetched a killer price. We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams are not plagued with regret. Sold for cash. Waxwork location. The question that arises then is, what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief. Such as is worn by a policeman is a secret sign to fellow members of the force that a crime is being perpetrated. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman currently investigating this museum. I know him well, in fact. It's Sergeant John Clay. What are you talking about? The man's quite a celebrity. He received triple accolades at last year's policing awards. But... next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with the particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely, and he hasn't moved a muscle, almost, in fact, as if he were a waxwork. Ah, but you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicion, madam. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. Threepence? A tragically low price, you might say, though perhaps the going rate for aging waxworks riddled with cracks. And yet you sold it to the portly gentleman for an exorbitant £200. The sort of plucky behavior that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard. Isn't that so, madam? I do not... Yes, the waxwork you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in their custody as we speak. The old man must be reunited with his grave in the special exhibit, and not a moment too soon. You know, I never really stopped to think about it, but like, what the fuck is going on? Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. Ooh. I see I've stunned you all into silence. You have, Hurley, you have. And you've obviously upset this young lady in the process. Her cauldron looks awfully hot. If I could just bring up 1 point, Sholmes. Ah! The notorious Naruhodo 1 point. I'm all ears, my dear fellow. According to your deduction, then, the special exhibit featured this old policeman. So, that would mean that he's the particularly ruthless murderer, wouldn't it? The killer policeman, Ottermole. Sorry. It was a mysterious series of murders that rattled the capital only last year. The police rushed to the scene every time, only to find the culprit had disappeared into the ether. And it turned out the culprit was a policeman himself, a senior officer by the name of Ottermole. So you mean that's who the sinister old man is supposed to be? Indeed, it is a particularly grim face, is it not? Unforgettable, in fact. Yes, I remember that odious countenance only too well. But is £200 a lot of money for a wax model? It would be enough to afford one of the latest steam carriages, if that puts things in perspective. Oof. So, it is quite a lot, then. Is there anything else you wish to add before I melt you down? That bubbling wax is looking more ominous. Ugh, the smell of all that molten wax is starting to worry me. Sholmes did more or less just accuse her to her face, so I think I might have to call on your assistance, Iris, if that's alright, to make some minor corrections to the great detective's great deductions. Of course it's alright, we'll soon set things straight. Well, let's get started then, before Madame Tuspel vents her anger. Just what I was waiting to hear, my dear fellow. So, Madame Tuspels, in accordance with our agreement, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. Alright, get me through there. Let's go, let's go. £200, goodness, oh no. Yes, the public notice. She definitely looked in this direction, it's true, but I'm not sure she'd sell any of her waxworks, even for £200. Oh. She must pour her heart and soul into making them, don't you think, over and above the wax. If it were me, I wouldn't sell them for anything. For that much money, I would, but it sounds like that makes me a bad person. Well, anyway, I wonder if the £200 could have some other significance. Let's follow the furtive gaze. Ah. What's that note doing pinned on the wall there? Oh yes, let's see. Dear Madame Tuspels, we've taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is £200. Have the money ready by noon on 23rd of October. What? This is just like the sort of thing that's left behind when someone is kidnapped. I do like how they use this ludicrously large pin. It's a ransom note, exactly.
Take that!
The significance of the £200 is revealed by that ransom note. Quite so, and we must congratulate these criminals on their inventiveness, abducting a waxwork. Ah. £200 is no small ransom fee, yet you clearly intend to pay it. The model in question has special importance, so I put together all the money I have. In summary then, the £200 you have in your handbag is ransom money. Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? So, by the way, I'm prepared to lay a call on the line again early in. The guy that we think died was actually the waxwork. Faked his death, right? Faked his death, and what they found was a wax body. Yeah, sounds good. I mean, I just have this feeling the death was faked, you know? Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Unfortunately, madam, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. The £200. So if the waxwork was kidnapped, where does that leave us in terms of who this man is? We could just ask him when he comes round. I think the point of this exercise is to understand the beauty of the deduction process, Iris. Yes, you're right. Hurley's trying so hard, we mustn't let him down. Well, there's little doubt that he suffered a shock, that much is clear. But in that case, what's Madame Tuspel trying to hide? Oh. This is just Madame Tuspel's right hand, isn't it? Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand, after all. Oh, but wait a minute. There's a left hand as well. Look. Don't say such creepy things, Iris, please. I see she's been grafting, It seems very stiff, too. In fact, it's really hard. You mean it's made of wax?
Take that!
What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the waxwork hand. Indeed, with a solid waxwork limb, one could deliver a very substantial blow. How could you? The hand protruding from the bottom of your cape. It ought to be a right hand, but closer inspection reveals that, in fact, it's a left hand. Ah. And somewhat masculine as well. In other words, it does not belong to you, madam. It is a waxwork model hand. Some of the visitors to my museum can be troublesome. They meddle with the exhibits and cause damage. So you mean that arm? Yes, this gentleman saw fit to try to remove it as a souvenir. No small keepsake. Like taking a whole branch of a cherry tree when you go to view the blossoms. It is rather bold, isn't it, to just try and steal a model's arm? You confronted the man and tried to take the arm back. And the result? The scene we see before us. He was knocked unconscious. A point we may need to revisit later, but for the time being, we have our conclusion. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit has been kidnapped. Kidnapped! Exclamation mark. Oh, the neckerchief. Wow, look, it's Freddy. According to Sholmes... Oh, whoops, sorry. According to Sholmes, the yellow neckerchief... Yellow man, what the fuck is wrong with me? The yellow neckerchief is a sign of to other policemen some crime is underway. A way of communicating with colleagues without revealing his identity. It's a secret that's closely guarded by Scotland Yard, so it's true. Mr. Sholmes didn't hesitate to give away. Well, uncovering secrets isn't any true great detective's nature, of course. Right. Anyway, judging from Madame Tuspel's reaction to Sholmes' deduction, I think perhaps we might not have identified the man quite correctly. Anything in your hand? Oh! What the? The man has a stub sticking out of his shoulder where his arm should be. Ah, that settles it then. Right. This isn't a real person. Yeah, I figured that would be the case, because surely he would have reacted at some point otherwise.
Take that!
Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his shoulder stub. Not such boneless humans, no such boneless human walks this earth, of that I can assure you. In other words, the man standing here, the young Sergeant John Clay, is in fact defying all odds a waxwork model. I seem to remember it was you who concluded he was a real person in the first place, Sholmes. He has become quite a celebrity in London, being the winner of no less than 3 policing awards last year. I simply had to make a model of the man. Naturally, what other explanation could there be? And it was this detective's arm that was pulled off by the man on the floor, wasn't it? Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with a particularly unsightly visage. He hasn't moved a muscle, almost in fact, as if he were a waxwork. Oh, so is this going to turn out to be a real person? I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. He also has a yellow neckerchief on. A killer policeman called Ottermole, was it? Was he well known? It was all over the papers last year, but I can't say I know what he looks like. It's a very low price, though. Threepence isn't much money. Only enough for an easily few hours of gas. So, this is the special killer taken from the exhibit, is it? The waxwork that somebody stole from the museum and tried to ransom? Is this crusty old killer policeman Ottermole? Really? Perhaps we should have a good look around again and see if another idea crops up. Oh, yep, there he goes. Hey, buddy, you good?
Take that!
That's not really much of a twitch, like, that's a little extreme. The obvious twitch. Even the most realistic waxworks do not exhibit a twitch. In other words, this splendid old man is in fact a genuine member of Scotland Yard. Slight shift in your choice of adjectives, then. And there you have it, well, Madam Tuspel. Well, what? It was me who contacted the police and demanded that someone come in the first place. He is clearly fatigued. He is sound asleep. But then, what's this price tag showing a price of threepence? No doubt the price tag of the muffler, which the old Bobby purchased recently at the local market. And I presume you've observed the scarf tied around his arm. Does that not strike you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, the secret sign used by detectives to show criminal activity is underway. Of course, because, as you know, there has been just such criminal activity happening here, as you deduced from the very beginning, detective. So it would seem that we finally arrive at the truth. The waxwork of the especially ruthless killer has been kidnapped. And Scotland Yard are already investigating. But the model's whereabouts remain a mystery. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes's great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. I'm pretty confident I can identify that the waxwork was in some way involved at the scene of the crime, given the piece of cloth we found. I'm sticking fast on faked death, though. All sorts of people visit my museum here, men and women, young and old. Sometimes they drop in just for a short time on their way back from the pub. I welcome them all. But if anyone tries to damage my exhibits, I do not take it lightly. Anyway, relax. Your great deduction has been even more enchanting than I had been led to believe. It was a pleasure, my dear madam. I'm gratified that you enjoyed the spectacle. And as for your rough customer, I've no doubt he'll regain consciousness shortly and return home. What concerns me more is the waxwork from the special display. If it were indeed genuinely abducted. Yes, tragically it was. Then I would ask you to recount to us the events surrounding the stolen waxwork, in as much detail as possible, if you please. Very well. But after I've told you what I know, I must insist that you return to your work. The talents of a great detective could be put to better use, I feel, but as you wish. Alright. Tell us more about the stolen waxwork, please. It was some days ago now, when I came in here one morning, I immediately noticed that the waxwork was missing from the special exhibit. It is your most prominent display, so that's why the curtains were closed. And I found the ransom note in its place. The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then? So this waxwork that was stolen, it's the model of some horrible criminal, I suppose? Of a particularly horrible criminal, in fact. The killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other, I would say. The Professor. Not a name I've heard of. So, Mr. Naruhodo, it seems the circle is complete. Sorry? The Professor case happened at around the time I was born, didn't it? Indeed, it did, Iris. 10 years ago, a series of murders that rocked the capital. 10 years ago? Yes, at exactly the time that Barak von Zykes graduated from university, in fact. What? Surely he's not saying. So the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life? As you've surmised, it was the professor case. Who was this professor, then? It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of London gripped in terror a decade ago. After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested and put to death. And now he's immortalized here in wax for all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Though, of course, he happens to be absent at present on account of the abduction. But I don't understand. How is this all related to von Zykes? You must first understand, my dear fellow, why it is that the professor earned such infamy. It was due to the victims he chose, some of Whitehall's finest. What do you mean, Hurley? Those murdered by the professor were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy. Members of the nobility, even royalty. It sent shockwaves through the country's administrations. Members of the... wait, of course. What Professor Harebrained said. Von Zykes is from a family with noble blood. Oh gosh. It was the 5th victim that led to the professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of... Clint von Zykes. No, I don't believe it. Von Zykes? I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourself. In the wake of his older brother's murder, the young Barak pursued a career as a prosecutor, and eventually became the Reaper we know today. I had no idea von Zykes had such a tragic past. I mean, you don't turn into, like, a bat like he has if you have a well-adjusted past, you know? Well, I'm afraid that's all I can say on the matter, for the time being at least. After all, I have work to do. As a waxwork exhibit. I'm afraid I shall have to excuse myself as well. Oh, yes, of course. It's been a pleasure, thank you. Well, none of the predicted scenarios I've been analyzing involved you coming to visit me here.
It's been too long, it really has. I'm delighted to see you, Barak.
It's been 10 years, and here we are, meeting in a prison of all places.
I can't forgive myself for what happened to Mr. Asman. I just can't. I still can't believe it could happen.
Tomorrow, the court will decide.
Yes. I have a young Eastern man acting for my defense. He seems reliable enough, though. It was an accident, a terrible accident. He assures me he can prove it.
I must warn you.
Oh, I know. I've heard already. You're going to be prosecuting, aren't you?
Yes.
Since I've returned to England, I've heard lots of stories. Barak, are you really...
What?
Never mind. I know that you have my best interests at heart.
My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else.
Of course, I fully understand. Thank you, Barak.
Until tomorrow, then. I'll see you in court. Alright. This is gonna be exciting. I'm very into the sci-fi murder plot we're having in the middle of the fucking, you know, Victorian era. I can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work, and now here I am, back at the Old Bailey.
Mr. Naruhodo.
Good morning, Professor Harebrained.
I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts. I've never felt anything like it. It's crushing me.
I feel it every time I'm here. That gravity.
Well, this is Britain's highest court. But are you telling me it's fitted with some kind of device that can actually control air pressure?
No, I think it's probably all in the mind.
Ah, yes. Well, you won't let me down, will you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you in today's trial to save my life. To save the secret of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public.
Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. Have to establish the explosion was an accident. Or we'll establish sabotage. You know, we could do multiple things.
Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, really. Justice will prevail.
My commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here. Sholmes! I didn't expect to see you here. That was very mean, Runo, leaving me alone at home with Hurley. It took me at least an hour to wake him.
Are you Sherlock Sholmes?
Indeed, sir. I am he. Sherlock Sholmes.
Oh, I've heard all about your exploits, even whilst living in Germany.
Yes, Ranched magazine is on sale in Germany too.
This month's installment was sublime. Your deduction in The Adventure of Silver Blaze was wonderful.
Yes, a memorable case indeed. It concerned a snake, I seem to recall. No, that was the Speckled Band. Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I can't stay. Oh, I have urgent business at Madame Tuspel's. You mean your waxwork job? No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services. So you're trying to get to the bottom of the ransom note, are you? The week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. Oh, well, never mind then, I understand. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be as easy as a proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie of any description. Oh, then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Hurley. Quite, Iris, quite, but life is riddled with irony, you know. Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for a pie. One of the universe's intractable mysteries, you might say.
Oh yes, quite, definitely, absolutely. I totally understand.
Is someone a little starstruck? I wish you the very best of luck, Professor Hairbrain.
Well, thank you.
Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear, if you please. What's this about? As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, a practical implementation such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibit is quite impossible. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was. I've read Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Runo, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It could barely be done theoretically, let alone practically. So he's completely barking up the wrong tree. But how could an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding in fact succeed? That's contradictory. And it's that contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial, I've no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now, I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, my dear fellow. See you later, Hurley. Well, it looks like you're on your own today, Runo, but chin up, you can do it. Oh, what about you, Iris? Oh, no, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do. I see. It's going to be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is. Ah, that sounds ominous. Counsel for the defense and the defending. Court is in session. Make your way. We're on our way. An experiment that the laws of science say can't possibly succeed, and a scientist who's convinced that it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock, Ryunosuke.